Howdy, Marijuana Nation. Just a quick announcement before we launch into today's show. As many of you are also experiencing over the last day or so, we're getting a bunch of snow up here in Maine. So I'm taking tomorrow off from work and going snowboarding with my kids because you only live once, and before you know it, your kids are old and grown up and think your jokes are lame. So we'll be back with the show on Friday. And as a reminder for newer listeners, our regular publishing schedule of 4 shows per week, Tuesday through Friday, has been completely disrupted since September due to complications with my youngest kiddo and her schooling. So right now, at best, we're putting out 3 episodes per week. My hope is to get back up to 4 shows per week as soon as we can, but that all depends on the coronavirus vaccine rollout and all of us continuing to wear masks and staying socially distant. So, yeah. This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by our friends over at Curaleaf, one of the nation's leading providers of adult use and medical marijuana products, with 93 local dispensaries, 22 cultivation sites, and 30 processing facilities, all serving up more than 350,000 registered patients and customers in 23 operating states. Learn more about all the good work done by everyone over at Curaleaf at their website, curaleaf.com, with Curaleaf spelled C-U-R-A-L-E-A-F. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021, and you're tuned in to episode 1017 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. We kick off the news week with a story out of Washington, D.C., where 3 leading Democratic senators, including Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, have announced that they are working on a new bill to legalize marijuana. Senator Schumer is being joined in the effort by Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey and Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon. The 3 senators issued a statement yesterday reading in part, quote, "In the early part of this year, we will release a unified discussion draft on comprehensive reform to ensure restorative justice, protect public health, and implement responsible taxes and regulations." Unquote. This follows on news from last week where Senator Schumer cited cannabis policy reform as a top legislative priority. It's important to note here that in December, the U.S. House of Representatives passed the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act, or the MORE Act, a bill that would effectively legalize cannabis at the federal level. So if the Senate were to also pass a legalization bill this year, it's likely that the legislation would become law. This is a big storyline overall, so make sure to keep it on your general industry radar. Our buddy Ben Adlin, a new regular on our weekly show Marijuana Today, writes over at Marijuana Moments today about a set of marijuana legalization bills in Virginia that made good progress in passing through various legislative committees over the weekend and during the day yesterday. Virginia's state legislature and governorship is thankfully controlled by Democrats who are using some of their power right now to advance 2 legalization bills in the state Senate and House of Delegates. Those 2 pieces of proposed legislation face a deadline of Friday to pass out of their respective bodies of legislature so they can cross over for consideration by the other side. So there's a decent amount of pressure on lawmakers this week to get their work done. Ben's story on this is good and worthy of a full dive in. If passed, the 2 bills would set up a taxed and regulated adult use sales program that would start up no sooner than January 1st, 2024. Pop over to Ben's story for more here. Today's final top story concerns a report just issued by the Michigan Marijuana Regulatory Agency looking at the racial composition of the state's licensed marijuana business owners, finding that it is made up disproportionately of white people. Black Michiganders make up 13.7% of the state's population, but only 3.8% of its legal cannabis license holders. That is unfortunately right in line with the general disparities we see all over the country and industry, with economics, built-in systemic racism, hundreds of years of injustice, and greed, all conspiring to create an environment where people of color are largely being left out. This new report out of Michigan is an important part of correcting that wrong, so I would suggest that you open up this one to read in full today, if you read any story at all. The findings are accompanied by a raft of suggestions suggestions for increasing diversity, including new taxes to pay for programs helping new entrepreneurs of color get their businesses started. Again, read this one. Those are the top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz out on headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, Curaleaf, one of the nation's leading providers of adult use and medical marijuana products, with 93 local dispensaries, 22 cultivation sites, and 30 processing facilities, all serving up more than 350,000 registered patients and customers in 23 operating states. Curaleaf has grown from a company with just a handful of shops located up here in the Northeast to one of the leading companies in the world of cannabis in just a few short years. With shops and facilities located across the country, the chances of there being a Curaleaf shop for you to visit nearby has never been better. And did you know that Curaleaf is also a major player in the worlds of legal hemp and adult use, with Curaleaf Hemp, Select, and Grassroots all existing under its corporate umbrella? You can learn all the things you want to know about Curaleaf, including the location of their nearest shop, over at curaleaf.com, with Curaleaf spelled Curaleaf. Big thanks to everyone at Curaleaf for the support that helps us keep the news lights running. All right, time for the Blitz. Yesterday, a bill was introduced in Minnesota's House of Representatives to legalize adult use marijuana. The as-of-yet unnumbered bill, introduced by House Majority Leader Ryan Winkler, would set up a taxed and regulated sales program built around a retail sales tax of 10% with home grow allowed. The legislation contains provisions for the creation of social equity programs and includes automatic expungement of past cannabis charges. Unfortunately, the Minnesota State Senate is controlled by Republicans, who have said that they have no interest at all in advancing the legislation. The state of West Virginia just announced the winners of the first 100 medical marijuana dispensary licenses being given out, with around 30 companies in all taking home the pool. The list of winners is chock full of multi-state operators like Columbia Care and Trulieve, and can be found via Marijuana Business Daily's story. Click on over. Last week, the National Industrial Hemp Council's board chair, Patrick Atagi, spoke with President Joe Biden's acting agriculture secretary, Kevin Shea, cool name, and discussed a number of issues related to industrial hemp. The two spoke for the first time and covered a range of topics, including testing protocols for hemp farmers, how labs are certified, and the need for increased research and development into hemp cultivation and technology. Mr. Atagi spoke with Kyle Yeager over Marijuana Moment, so if your world touches industrial hemp at all, I'd think about adding this one to your list of stories to dive into fully. As we always do, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com. Solomon Israel over Marijuana Business Daily is another story they should open up today, with a good look at how Arizona's adult use market has gone in its first week of operations. The story is accompanied by some useful graphics, including a map showing the distribution of the state's first adult use stores, of which there are 95 so far. The state has not yet released sales data for how legal dispensaries have fared, but Arizona's overall adult use market was estimated by Marijuana Business Daily to be worth $400 million in year one, rising to around $700 million by 2024. On Friday, lawmakers in New Jersey passed out of committee a so-called cleanup bill that fine-tunes a few features of the adult use sales program lawmakers are working to pass. The new legislation would ease up punishments for young people caught with cannabis, making possession a $50 to $100 fine for people ages 18 to 20, while reducing punishment for those under 18 to verbal warnings and possible diversion to intervention programs. There is some time pressure on the further passage of this bill, as Governor Phil Murphy is facing a deadline of February 8th to sign a broader legalization bill, and has said he will not do so until a few key features were fixed. That's the goal of this cleanup bill, so hopefully we'll see legal adult use sales in New Jersey on the sooner side. Republican lawmakers in Idaho are pushing for the passage of a constitutional amendment to block the people from legalizing marijuana. The by nature anti-democratic Republican lawmakers pushed through the Senate State Affairs Committee on Friday a bill that would add a note to the state constitution that, quote, the production, manufacture, transportation, sale, delivery, dispensing, distribution, possession, or use of a psychoactive drug shall not be permitted in the state of Idaho, unquote. That would take precedent over any citizen-led ballot initiative and would effectively block Idaho from having any kind of sensible marijuana policy. The bill would allow for products approved by the FDA, so prescription drugs like Epidiolex would still be permitted. This is a sad story and one that I think we should all read and be aware of. We end the day's news on a very good note indeed, as yesterday was the first day in the state of Oregon where police will no longer arrest people for having small amounts of any drug on them. Oregon became the first state in the U.S. to decriminalize all drug possession when voters approved Measure 110, a citizens' initiative in November that makes getting caught with small amounts of drugs no more than a $100 fine. That's still $100 too much, but certainly beats being arrested and or thrown into jail. Big congratulations to everyone in Oregon and out who helped make this happen. Now let's see that everywhere. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again on Friday with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, Curaleaf, and to our awesome Patreon listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the Patreon listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with marijuana today. Today.
One take, Shay. One take.